Okay. Hello and welcome to my IDC206 Emerging Design Technology presentation. I'm just going to jump straight into it. I have chosen the Nauru file about a little girl forced to squat and pee outside in front of a female guard. While urinating, the guard shines a torch on the young girl and she screams and yells out and puts her hands up in the air and yells, "Please don't touch me." They tried complaining to the security boss, but they refused to take the statement. Through my research, I found that over 2,000 files of sexual assault and child abuse, as well as self-harm, happen in the Nauru Detention Centre. Most of the abuse is by guards employed at the detention centre. A lot of these claims are refused and victims are labelled as mentally unstable or suffering from trauma. So for this assignment, we had to come up with an idea for a space that translated in the Nauru file that we chose. So first up, my mood board. I wanted to suggest the sense of innocence taken, contrast, and exposed. Then my storyboard. This is just to give you an idea of what happened. And then I made a narrative board. Okay, so when I think of exposed, I think of naked, vulnerable, seen, looked at. Looked at, I think of spotlight, theatre, show, stage, and a contrast of light and dark. Naked, bare, neutral colours. Exposed, glass. Vulnerable, taken advantage of, naive, young, child, contrast between old and young. For example, if an older person tells me off, I'm going to automatically think that they're right just because they're older. When I think of child, I think of safe, toys, happy. Safe, I think of home, comfort, and familiar. And a lot of abuse, violence, and sexual assault and rape happen at the Nauru file, which makes me feel angry, sadness, revenge, embarrassed, and shame. So I came up with a metaphor for my space and a name for my space, which is vulnerable, which I think is a great word because a lot of these people have left everything behind and have come on these boats and they're hoping for a better life and they end up at this detention centre and that's not the case. And then their rights and everything have been taken and they are sort of told to live by these guards and they have authority. So there's a contrast between people that have authority compared to someone that has none, and that makes you feel vulnerable. And I love the Urban Dictionary meaning for vulnerable, which is someone who's completely and rawly open, unguarded with their heart, mind and soul. Being vulnerable happens when you trust completely. Rather, it's vulnerability by pain or joy. It's being exposed with all the emotions that make it easy for someone who you trust to really do some emotional damage or healing. Vulnerability is the surrounded of all control and personal power in regards to letting someone close enough to destroy you. I think that's really powerful. So then I look at inspiration. So I looked at the Corridor House in Chicago, which is made of plywood, just plywood as well. And this is a house and you walk through it and it's just one material, which I think is really cool because it's something familiar in the sense of a house, but in one material, which is kind of uncomfortable in the way. And that also translates to the other inspiration that I looked at, which is Don't Miss a Sec by Monica, I can't pronounce her surname, Polish artist. And this is something that we do, like go to the toilet, we do every day and it's so natural, and then putting it somewhere so uncomfortable in a glass box where you can see out but not in. And then I looked at Monopoly style houses, which are also just one material, and then glass, getting that sense of exposure. So then my materials that I chose, obviously glass, plywood, concrete and black paint. My model and my idea, so it's just parts of a house or a home, and separating them into sections like kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, living room, and then putting them inside this glass cage, I guess you could say, and to give people this sort of feel of familiarity, but then making it really uncomfortable. And people can walk in and out, and these spaces are purposely made quite small as well. And I think that's probably because of the way that the Nauru, the detention centre, is probably is just very crowded and very small. I specifically chose the location of the powerhouse because it's in New Farm, which is is seen as a high-end suburb, and also because the outside of the exterior of the powerhouse kind of makes me feel like it looks like a prison in a way, and also because it's near the river, and that can give a sense of or emotion to people of how the Nauru people felt coming into the Nauru island. And then these are just some renders and the technology that I use in my space. So I use censored light, so as soon as you walk in, there's a light that shines straight up on you and follows you around the room. And so if there's a lot of people, it's going to be really bright, and then if there's not a lot of people, it's going to be dark, and as soon as you leave the space, it automatically turns off. So it follows you around the room, turns off, and turns back on if you enter or exit the room. And then I've got two projections of the young girl and the guard, and that's a sense of contrast again. So I look at old and young, bright and dark, and authorities and no authorities. And then I also want to create this space to be really cold, because when you are cold, you want to keep adding layers and you feel a sense of exposure, and you just want to keep adding layers, and I want there to be a little breeze to sort of relate to the outside. So yeah, and now I've made a short little video of my space, which I hope you will enjoy. Thank you.